tying up another Carrie Stevens streamer today from the Hilliard book. This is the White Ghost. This is it's an interesting pattern. It's got some silver pheasant body in the shoulder here, which is an interesting contrast and interesting look. It's got some golden pheasant crest in the wing as well as in the throat, which is not very common in a lot of her flies. I've also done a little bit more research on the tying techniques that she used, so in this video, changing things up a little bit in terms of how the bucktail and the throat are tied in, and the wing, and how the head is made. That's the White Ghost. I'll get started tying. I've already got my hook on the vise for the White Ghost. This is a Partridge CS15 in a size 4. And I've already attached my base layer of thread. There's an orange floss body on the White Ghost, so I'm using a white thread so that I don't end up darkening up that orange any more than it's going to in the water. The thread that I'm starting out with is a Danville 210 Denier in white. And I'm just using the 210 Denier because it's a little bit bigger and I can get up and down the hook shank just a little bit faster. I've got it all the way back to the point where I'm going to tie in the tinsel for the tag as well as the rib. Go ahead and debarb that hook. For tinsel, I'm using a Danville silver and gold Mylar tinsel and with the silver side in a size 10. That's what I meant to say. I'm going to tie this with the gold side up. Because there is no tail on this, I can attach the tinsel back here and for the tag, and then I can put the floss body in, then apply the tinsel for the tag and the rib at one time. I don't have to tie that in again. It is an orange floss body, and I'm using a Danville 4-strand rayon in orange. I'm going to attach that along the hook shank. If you want to, you could have this as long as the body, just have a little bit smoother underbody. But the small bump that you're going to get right there, I don't think is that critical. So I'll advance my thread up to the end of the body. I'll apply the orange floss, and then I'll apply the silver tinsel for the tag and the rib. with the body and the tinsel tied in, I'm going to go ahead and tie in the next materials. Now, it's interesting in my research in just how Carrie Stevens put her flies together, I've come up with a couple of things. One, she tied the bucktail and any peacock herl or anything like that farther back behind the eye. And I think the reason for this was she didn't want to crowd this area. There was going to be enough space taken up with the wings. So she tied this in behind, and then she would tie the throat in such a manner as to kind of cover up the thread wraps back here. I also discovered that she ties in the underwing, for lack of a better term, if it's peacock herl or whatever, first, and then she puts the bucktail on and then the throat. In this case, the white ghost does not have peacock herl as part of the wing, but it does have a golden pheasant crest. So that I'm going to tie that in now, and this just goes right on top of the hook shank. I'm going to put a couple, 2-3 wraps in here just to secure that down. And then I'm going to pull this to the right. And as I do that, I'll kind of make certain it gets positioned correct so that this is going to be right on top and flowing right down to that curve. Sometimes a golden pheasant crest can kind of get a mind of its own and it twists up on you. So doing it this way allows me to some leeway in terms of getting it just in the right place. Understand this is going to be underneath that wing, so it doesn't have to be necessarily perfect. Once that's where I want it, I'll secure this in, bringing my thread back down to the tie-in spot, because this is where I'm going to put in the bucktail. So this is just some regular white bucktail that she has in the white ghost here. I've already prepared a clump. You want to make certain, the only trick here is you can stack these if you want, if you like a nice clean edge, or just get the tips close. The only thing to watch out for is that your bucktail's rather sparse under here. If it's too heavy, meaning you have too much, it's going to add buoyancy on the underside of the fly, and the streamer might ride, instead of vertical in the water, it might ride to the side or even invert. I'm going to advance this forward just a little bit, that thread, and then I'm going to trim off the excess. I want to try and trim this at a little bit of a taper. Now I'm going to advance my thread forward, and I'm going to change over. I've also kind of adapted a different way of finishing up the headspace, which I'll explain in a minute. But I'm going to change over to a white thread here. She does the heads in a white thread and then has a different process in terms of how she gets the black and the color band in it, which I'll show you. But rather than stick with this white, which I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to bulk it up that much, so I'm going to switch over to a Danville 70 Denier in white. Same time, I could have switched over even when I finished the body and everything, so you could do that at that time if you wanted to. I'm going to advance my thread back down to right at the end of that bucktail. So this is where I'm going to tie in the first bit for the throat, and the throat is just some white hackle. I'm using some white schlappen for this. There's 3 bits that are tied in for the throat, and the first one is just right in front of that bucktail, and it's right on the bottom here. Now you'll notice that this is further back from what the resulting headspace will be. Now I'm going to have my thread forward right up, pretty much either in the headspace or just right back at the end of the headspace. And I'm going to tie in the other two pieces. The idea behind this is that you're going to tie these such that they're more or less on the side. They don't have to be as long. They could be a little bit shorter than the first piece of throat. But you're going to get a few wraps in there, and the idea is you can use the back of your scissors or your thumbnail to kind of push these around so that they cover from the side of the hook here on around the bottom. So see, these will flow back this way and cover up those thread wraps. You could also use a bigger clump if you want to. And then the second one that I'm going to put in, or I should say the third, the last one, going to go in over on this side, more or less the same thing. You're going to put that in, and see that kind of got mounted more on the bottom. So I'm going to either take that back out, or I'll just use my thumbnail, kind of push down and scooch that around so it comes up on the side of the hook. Securing all that in, now you can see I have just the head space right here, and I have the throat pieces and parts will come down and cover up the thread wraps on the sides there. This will get covered up by the wing when we put that in. She does also have in the throat on the white ghost another bit of golden pheasant crest. This is a shorter one. It's only going to be the length of the throat. Again, I'm going to secure that in a couple, 2-3 wraps, 4 in this case. I'm going to pull this to my right to get that the length that I want, and keeping that right on the very bottom. Once I have that in place, I'll put a few more wraps in to secure it, and I can cut away the excess. The nice thing about doing it this way is I'm now ready for the wing, because I forgot. I made a mistake. The belly has, no, I made the mistake. There is some peacock curl in the wing on top, and then that crest should go on top of that. So I'm going to tie in a little bit out of order here, but I'll go ahead and get the peacock curl tied in. So if I were doing this, how I should have done it is I would have put the peacock curl in here when I tied in that pheasant crest, and then that other pheasant crest would have gone on top. I was focused on making certain that I remembered the pheasant crest, because there's not many flies that she has pheasant crest on the top and bottom. There is another one that I can think of, the Carrie's Special, which I'll be doing a video on. And I think I just got myself focused on that so much that I forgot to put in the peacock curl. So I'm going to smooth this area out. And now I'm ready to tie in the wing. The wing on the white ghost, again, it has the peacock curl and then the pheasant crest. And then there is 2 white hackles. Actually, it's just 1 white hackle on each side. It has a shoulder of a silver pheasant body feather, and then a cheek of jungle cock. The other thing I found out is that when she tied these, she tended, as far as I know, to tie in the wings both at the same time. So she would also cut these off right at the very base of the wing. Now, I'm not certain how she held these when she did these, because she was tying all these by hand. But what I do is just place this one up here and then the other one on the other side. Get my left hand in holding both of those, and I'm holding these in such a way as I can feel the rachis right here is just right on top of the hook shank. The very butt ends right here, the base goes all the way up behind the eye of the hook. So your head actually, when you wrap it in, is going to be wrapping down onto some of those barbs at the base of the wing right there. It's kind of funny, you get in autopilot on some of these flies when you're tying them, and then you start thinking, well, I'm going to change the procedure, or in this case, I'm going to try and do it more like, the way that Carrie Stevens did these, and then you forget little things as you're tying it, like that peacock curl. So now I'm going to finish off, or smooth off the head, I should say, and shape it with the white thread. In the past, the recipe basically says that the head is black with an orange band. When I first started tying these streamers long ago, I would put a black head in and an orange band right in the middle. Quickly found out that that orange band gets a lot darker because of the black underneath it. So I changed my method to, in other videos, I would have changed over to the orange thread when I changed to the white here. So this would all be orange, and I would tie that off, and I put the two black bands in. Doing some research recently, I found that she does this a bit different because she has a white base on it. So I leave the white thread hanging at this point. I'm going to take my black thread. This is a 70 Denier Danville in black. And I'm going to attach the thread right at the eye of the hook, right in front of the white. I'm going to start advancing it rearward. I'm going to get about half that band or so in, and I'm going to trim away the black. I want to leave the white hanging. And I'm not certain if this is what I'll do in the long run, but I'm leaving the white hanging at this point, and I'm just going to drape it back over my vise. And I'm going to advance that black rearward, putting in the front black band. Take a little care. You don't want to get sloppy with this because you don't want to make it too big, and you want to get any white under there covered up. Now I'm going to whip finish the black, and this is where I'm not certain in the long run that this is the process how I'm going to do this, because I left the white on there. I'm going to attach the orange in just a second. And with the white hanging there, that gives me it did not go around the eye of the hook. That gives me, there we go, that white thread will help to push that orange right down next to the black. I can leave the black, but as I put the orange band in and I advance it on top of that black, you end up with a black line right under there. Now, if this was a fishing fly, I'm not going to concern myself with it, but the orange is a uni thread 8.0 in a pumpkin color. It's a little bit brighter orange. See this, I'm right up against that white thread, and I'm just right where the back end of that black is. And then I can advance this down. And this is pretty much how Carrie Stevens did it, from the standpoint of she had that white thread in there, and then she attached the black. The silks that they used were a little bit thicker, so I don't know if the way she did it, she would have that black on there, attach the red and wrap over the black. And then when she secured the red, then the black was back here, and she just puts in a few wraps for the back portion of the head. Again, I don't know. That's because the silks were thicker. and it was, obscured, covered up here. But if I left that black thread right under there, you would see a little black line right there. So now I can leave that hang and go back to the black thread. Get a few wraps in. I can trim away the black and the orange. Now at the same time, if you'd rather, you still get the same thing. If you would rather just change over to the orange and do it the way I've done in past videos, if that process works a little bit easier for you. Like I said, I'm just trying to learn how she did these things and the method, and because she was tying by hand with the bigger silk, this actually makes a little bit more sense in that regard. The trick is to get these done without bulking that head up too much. So once I have that in, I will wax on my thread. Carrie tended to do half hitches on most of hers. She would secure the black back here with a couple of half hitches, and then she would put some shellac on the thread wraps because the shellac would help preserve the color. Sometimes lacquers can distort the colors of the thread and the floss. So she would put some shellac on there. It would help to preserve the color, and then some lacquer on top of that so that the shellac would not get kind of milky and blotchy when it gets wet. Putting some fly tight head cement on the head here to let that soak in. And then I will come back with a clear lacquer and put 2 coats on there to help protect those threads. So that is the white ghost. Look to the recipe. It will have the order for the Peacock Herl and the Pheasant Crest and everything in there the way it should be. But I know all the pieces and parts are here. They're just in a little bit different order. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.